of you guys have talked about wanting to do honor grinds, and still get a lot of questions about gear, and so I figured I would cover the way they determine best in slot for PvE and the differences when you want a PvP for picking out gear. So for PvE, they determine best in slot by breaking on Rogue anyways. They only pay attention to offensive abilities on gear to rank it, and they break every stat down into attack power, and so then they give an attack power value to every item. The higher the attack power value, the better the item. And so the way they do that is like if we look at, we'll take the Night Slayer belt. So each point of strength is 1 attack power. Each point of agility is 1 attack power, and 1/29th a percent crit. And 1% crit equals 28 attack power, and 1% hit past the hit cap equals 21 attack power. So, like if you broke down this belt just for its PvE attack power value, you'd get 17 plus 9 for 26 attack power, and then 17 is about 0.5% crit, so 14 attack power there. So it would have a score of 43. That's it. Well, and the 1% crit, which is 28, so 71. That would be its numerical value. Anything that used those formulas, including set bonuses, I usually split amongst the items. Anything with a higher attack power value, once you broke it down like that, would be considered a better item, because all of the PvE best in slot stuff is all straight up paper value offensive ability. It's pretty much theory crafting. So in PvP, things start to change quite a bit, because unlike a group situation in PvE, you're going to be getting attacked. And so what makes an item valuable changes, because the more survivability you gain, the longer you can stay in the fight to deal damage. And then the more burst your damage is, like the more big hits you can do instantly, is more valuable than doing really high damage long term, because in PvP, your only goal is to kill the other person before you die. Nothing else matters. So, lots of times, when people apply best in slot raid equipment to PvPing, they don't get the great performance they're hoping for, because they forget a lot of things like stamina, dodge, which you get from agility and shit, armor, and then agility's ability to increase armor mitigation. So, especially on the armor mitigation factor there. You can see there that's before no buffs and before the 150 we get off of the Sword of Zeal. So usually I rock about 29%. That's just flat reduction on all physical damage coming in. Then items that heal you, that are consistent enough to be counted on anyways, increase your life more. So having a high hit point value, a really high dodge, with a really high parry, high mitigation, and then life steal, and this heal. That extra survivability that goes into there in a fight against another player allows me to live longer. And so if every 2 seconds, or every 4 seconds basically, that you can stay alive as a rogue, especially running a build like this, is another Sinister Strike, which can be another 1,000 damage with a character set up like this. So those things go a long ways. HP values, because I've PvP'd a lot in Classic with different classes kind of all over the place, generally you want, like, mages are the frailest clothies. They usually rock 10% armor damage mitigation for physical, and in pre-epic gear they have 3,000 health, and in full epics they have 3,500-ish health. This is excluding like a warlord gear set, obviously, because it has a focus on health. Warlords have a shit ton of health. It's what makes them so hard to kill. And so for leather, I try to keep it in PvP at a minimum of 3,500 hit points and at a high of 4,000 hit points. Mail, because all mail classes have extra stats to do. They have mana, so they need int, they need agility, strength, all of it. They gain some mitigation through armor, but they generally don't increase the hit point pool much. They stay right at a low of 35, a gear to 4k, and then plate, that jumps again to a low of 4k and a high of 4.5k in GDP. Keeping your health in those values will help you to, not going below those in those armor classes. You'll end up in situations where, like, a rogue, for instance, will ambush you, gouge you instantly, so you can't move, or you never get control, and then backstab and eviscerate you and kill you. Or a warrior can charge as an arms warrior, and if his swing crits, his auto attack, he can then MS crit, execute, and instantly take you out, stuff like that. It's a little harder to get around with the mages and stuff, but those values should help you to not become a triple chain from a mage or a warlock, where a chain of 3 abilities, including a bolt spell, and then a 1.5 second cast that doesn't have travel time, and an instant. Those will all hit at the same time. If they rock a crit or two, if you go below those values, you'll find those guys, when they start getting geared, those 3 abilities will just instantly kill you. And so you will avoid situations where you never even got control of your character or got to fight back. You just died when they looked at you. So if you stay in those hit point values that I mentioned for your armor class, you'll avoid almost all of those situations. Even if it's only a second, nothing is more demoralizing than literally not even being able to do anything, just dying because someone looked at you. For rogues, a lot of the time, because they get so focused on raid or group type damage dealing in PvE where someone else has aggro, their health will drop way below where it should be, and their armor mitigation will drop way below in the lower 20s, and their dodge usually drops way below, down to low 20s or even sub 20%. But when you start doing that stuff, that's when you start feeling extremely frail. Where, like, it starts to feel like if you're not stun locking or, interrupting or using cooldowns anytime you're out of stealth, or if you get caught out of stealth, it's like you can't even fight back against melee. Or if you give a melee a chance to fight back, it's just over. So if you keep those values up, you'll start to notice that getting caught out of stealth, transitioning, because obviously it's hard to go back into stealth in a group fight in like AB and stuff, to your next target, there won't be this huge dip in your performance where it feels like the only thing you can do is try to drop 2 people, maybe if you're lucky, before you go down. Most of the time only 1, and then you die, and that's every combat situation you get into in a battleground, which is pretty demoralizing as a rogue. It's kind of one of the only classes that suffers that situation, because they can become so frail in their melee. So keep the agi up for the mitigation and the dodge, and keep your health between the 35 and 4k. And then I run the heal type stuff because, like, if you pay attention to DPS or heal charts, I'm usually right below where a full Fury Warrior would be for their incoming heals. I'm usually right at what a Fury Warrior rocks for their HP, and in Fury stance, I have the same armor mitigation, so you can see a kind of a longer time in combat, more ability to fight back, to where it doesn't feel like you're this thing that can only fight during cooldowns, or only fight if it has the stealth opener advantage in a fight, or only fight 1v1. If 2 people come after you, you just die. It doesn't feel like that all the time. It's not super common to die in every time you engage someone in a battleground. More often than not, you come out of it, or you'll kill multiple people. And that's when it starts getting entertaining. But those values, doing those things, and balancing the defensive aspect of PvP, which I don't know what it is about rogues. Their class is like famous for just completely forgetting that whole point. They just focus on their damage output. Doing this, the harder you get into it, or if you focus on it and take away from your damage dealing abilities, you can see your raid performance start to drop. To a certain extent, staying in those health values and stuff that I said, you won't see it drop. If you start to go above this, like if I start prioritizing health at this point to push past 4k, that's when I'll start seeing the drop off of being able to stay alive longer or make it through more close situations in the raids isn't paying out anymore as far as my ability to keep doing damage. So it tapers off. Staying in those health values that I stated is really recommended. And there's a few kind of easy to get items that can help this out. Yeah, there we go. So when they made the PvP set items, you'll notice they like that's weird. How come I can't? Won't load or let me select different items. Let me get to something. Help. Well, I can pull them up down here anyways. The Defiler stuff is gangster. Like the Defiler's belt that you get for Honored is literally almost as good as Night Slayer. The boots are, other than the blood-drenched foot pads, you gotta get almost tier 3 from Naxxramas loot to start actually outperforming them. Because if you look at, like, these are the Defiler boots, the run speed increase they already have on them, so you can slap a 9 agility enchant instead of the minor speed increase you gotta slap on everything else. So that's 21 agility, 16 stamina, and 16 attack power. Plus, if you have more pieces, set bonuses going. That's really hard to beat. And all the PvP gear, because these came out, like they made the PvP sets, and then they made the AB came out next. You'll notice that the PvP gear, if I can grab a piece like here, doesn't have stamina, or not stamina, but agility on it. They just gave it attack power and crit and high stamina. And so to compensate for the no armor mitigation, like let's look at here's the ZG epic shoulders, 140 armor because they have agility on them. The PvP shoulders, 196. So that's a 30% armor increase in raw value. So they compensated for it. So one of the big things you can do that not a lot of people think about is if you mix match raid gear in with this stuff while you're PvPing, like if you run the PvP set gloves and legs for the 2-piece bonus, the 40 attack power, they have that huge 30% armor increase, right? Well, then if you mix in Night Slayer pieces with a really high agility, like the chest and the legs, the agility on those is going to then amplify the already amplified armor value of the PvP set pieces. And what you can come up with is an extra 5 or 6% physical damage mitigation that not a lot of people take advantage of. The AB belt, if you don't have the Night Slayer, go for that. The boots are a must. And then if you can get to Legionnaire to get the PvP set chest and shoulders, because the shoulders are dope. There's the shoulders. The stats on those are awesome. And the pants have basically the same attack or the same stat layout. So Bloodguard is really easy to hit. It'll give you the boots, which kind of suck. The gloves, which are pretty nice. The next rank up will give you chest and pants, which are both really, really nice. And then the next rank gives you shit. Then there's another rank, and that will give you shoulders and head. So the shoulder and head blue PvP set pieces are kind of hard to get. The chest and legs take a little effort. Bloodguard, which, like, I haven't even been PvPing. I've let it decay 2 weeks, and I'm still almost at Bloodguard. Should be really easy to obtain for the first two. And then an actual effort will get you the legs and chest. That's pretty golden stuff. Other pieces that are PvP maze balls. DM West. DM West has... Well, you can get that from the chest. You can just buy it in Org for like 45G. You can wear 2 of them. It's not unique. Decent kind of throw in there ring. Not as good as the ZG ones. AV has an awesome offhand dagger. And then DM West has these, Bracers of the Eclipse. So you can put a 9 strength enchant or 9 stam if you want more health. The amount of attack power you can get off those with a 9 strength is more than you can get off of anything other than the Exalted Warsong Gulch Epic leather bracers. Actually, might be more than they can get. They're pretty dope. There's also the ZG's crafted 1% hit, which have the same stats as Shadowcraft, but 1 less agility and 1% hit added to them. The other thing that no one ever does on rogues, which is powerful in PvP, is plus defense. You don't need a lot of it, but because everyone's running a 5 or 6% hit, mostly in the true like Hemo or PvP devoted specs for melee, when you put just like 10% or plus 10, you can even get away with plus 6, honestly, defense on your character, and you can do that with a core armor kit on the legs and then a plus 3 enchant to the bracer. You got your defense, or just like that necklace I was just showing you. Right here, it's got plus 7, that'll do, or if you got Dalren's offhand. What that'll do is lots of characters, melee characters, you will actually put back a chance for their abilities to miss on their strikes against you because they don't have the hit. You've gone above what their hit, what they presume the hit cap should be. That's big. Big. I mean, a character having no chance to miss against you to even a third of a chance to possibly miss, that means they lose all the resources it costs to do the move, and the move does absolutely nothing to you and cannot proc anything. That's huge. So a little bit there goes a long way on rogues. Warriors, it's really easy for them. It's natural on a lot of their gear. Us, I'd recommend, if nothing else, just until you have like Bloodfang pants to throw a ZG enchant on, throw a core armor kit onto your legs for plus 3 defense. Good to go. That's about it. As far as damage output goes, I wouldn't focus so much on true stun lock things as a rogue. I just focus on burst damage, like how quickly can you put out 3,000 damage or 4,000 HP damage to another character. If you can do that in 5 or 6 seconds, that means it takes you 5 or 6 seconds to drop another player in PvP, which is something Rogue, this build, is very capable of, and that, I mean, if it's 6 seconds to drop someone, that takes one enemy off of the enemy's team on the field. More likely your team's going to win. Or in a build like this where it's set to fight sustained in combat, you know, doesn't have to have the stealth opener, if you can do that before his buddy, even though he's right there next to you, can actually get to you and attack you and realizes what's going on, it then just becomes two 1v1s. The second one you didn't have a stealth opener for. It's not too hard to drop two people and walk out alive in a 2v1 in a battleground. That's where stuff like the Maelstrom card comes in big. Allows, even though it's random, you can't control it, allows you to achieve a huge burst damage increase. And that's where this build kind of shines. The ability, if you have not in stealth and 100 energy, to walk up to someone and triple Sinister Strike as quick as you can hit the button and generate 5 combo points, so you can eviscerate and kill someone right there without having stealth or anything. Golden. And then, well, I'm sure if you played combat, you know your PvE rotation. Build 5 points, slice and dice, build 5 points, eviscerate, build 5 points, slice and dice, and it'll time to right to where your slice and dice is wearing off when you renew it, and you just repeat that over and over and over. Mix in your Blade Fury and Cold Blood on your 5-point eviscerate. As you're doing it, you've got your DPS rotation. That's parries. So a parry, when your opponent parries your attack, a parry is a block and a counter. They then auto attack. But in WoW, even though it didn't do any damage, it only takes a small amount of your energy. It refunds a lot of it, but it counts as a hit, which means that it can proc your cards, your lifesteal, if you have Shadowcraft bonuses or Bloodfang chance on hit bonuses. A parry is a hit, even though it didn't do damage, and it can activate all your procs, which is another thing that can shine in this build. Things to keep in mind: your ranged attack too. When you start boosting up agility, you'll notice my ranged attack power is fucking insane. And my ranged damage, even though I'm using a level 51 BOE blue that costs 5 gold, is pretty gnar. So when things are low, running away, don't waste everything, especially if you don't have sprint, chasing them, because your sprint gets you out of a route, so don't waste it chasing someone. Simply shoot them. It rocks the same crit chance as your melee, which for me is about 25%. 25% of the time, I can crossbow shoot a running mage and I'll crit him for 600 plus damage. Finish him off right there. That's an easy thing a lot of people forget about. And then in 1v1s, you won't have Imp Gouge, so you don't gotta abuse the gougeness. There you go. Hope that helped you kind of grasp gearing a little bit more, and how to change your gear methodology for PvP success.